The wind whistled through the towering trees as the four investigators stood at the edge of the ominous Boulder field. Each of them had come prepared, each with a different background. Dr. Riley, the skeptical scientist; Emma, the paranormal enthusiast; Daniel, the historian; and Sam, the cameraman eager for a scoop. The air was heavy with an unspoken tension as they discussed the case, aware of the unusual number of people who had vanished in this very spot without a trace. Legends spoke of an ancient spirit trapped in the stones, jealous of anything living that dared to linger too close. As the group set up their base camp, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Sam adjusted the tripod for a wide-angle shot of the boulders, massive, moss-covered giants seemingly tossed by the hands of ancient titans. He glanced through the viewfinder, catching a glimpse of something that made his breath catch for a split second. A stray movement among the rocks, gone as quickly as it appeared. As dusk approached, the forest was painted in hues of bleeding oranges and deepening purples. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the fragile sound of snapping twigs underfoot. Emma, fascinated by the folklore, began sharing the most chilling tales with a mix of excitement and foreboding. Unknown to them all, the shadows had already begun to stretch longer than ought to be possible, creeping closer with each falling minute. As the night enveloped the Boulder field, the investigators gathered around a makeshift table where Emma displayed outdated maps and historical photographs. They were pieced together from archives and whispers. Through the town, images of a missing family, a local search warrant that was called off too soon, and unexplained disappearances spanning decades. The flickering lanterns cast flickering shadows that seemed to dance across the papers like malignant spirits. Daniel pointed out a particularly old photograph, its edges frayed with age. It showed a man posing in front of the boulders, soon identified as an early explorer who died mysteriously in the area. His eyes seemed to bore into theirs through the grainy sepia, as if cautioning them against treading the same path. The team felt an inexplicable chill as their attention was drawn back to the darkening forest beyond the reach of firelight. An unsettling murmur, as if a chorus of hushed voices carried on the wind, echoed from beyond the boulders. Dr. Riley attempted to dismiss it as a trick of the mind, pointing a finger at sound refraction and natural acoustics. Yet, despite his logical mind, even he felt the forest's hidden menace lurking in the darkness, an audience of unseen eyes waiting hungrily just beyond the edges of their senses. Emma's fascination with folklore led her to explore the darkest corners of local legends. She and Daniel circled back into the forest under the guise of collecting samples, but in reality, each was drawn by the tree-whispered lore. Every tale they unearth tells a different story of the stones cursed by ancient tribes, of rituals conducted under blood-red moons, and predators not of flesh and blood, but of the soul itself, a consuming darkness that leaves no shadow. The forest loomed with a breathless hush as they ventured deeper, stepping over gnarled roots and ducking under low-hanging branches that seemed to reach out like twisted hands. Emma paused as she stumbled across a circle of standing stones, partially sunken into the earth, covered with alien markings whose meanings were lost to time. Daniel's fingers lightly traced the grooved etchings, pondering on old scripts and cryptic meanings. They sensed a shift within the towering trees, a pressure drop, a subtle lowering of temperature that bypassed explanation. Suddenly overwhelmed, Emma felt her senses raw and exposed. The palpable sensation of being within a heart-beating entity. She grabbed Daniel's arm, both sensing hidden eyes watching them with an unfathomable, ancient intelligence that mirrored the hunger of an unseen predator. Back at camp, Dr. Riley and Sam were engrossed in analyzing audio recordings captured at various points around the Boulder field. They had set up digital recorders, hoping to catch evidence of the supernatural whispers that continually eluded them. As the recordings played through the speakers, an eerie, rhythmic chanting seemingly intertwined with the rustling leaves. Riley noted anomalies in the audio, frequencies beyond what they should be, suggesting something not entirely out of the realm of natural phenomenon. But there was an unconscious acknowledgement in his voice, a dissonance between his practiced logic and the inexplicable sensation that the forest was more than a collection of trees. Sam was transfixed, drawn into the layers of sound woven through the night air. Distinct words in an unfamiliar language would surface and then be swallowed back into obscurity. As he listened, his eyelids drooped, and he found himself at the edge of a dream where shadows converged not just from the periphery, but coiled within his very thoughts, like vines threading through his consciousness. As the clock crept toward midnight, the group reconvened, their faces etched with shared anxiety and unspoken dread. They decided to stage a night investigation into the heart of the Boulder field, believing that these supernatural forces were more likely to manifest under the cover of darkness. Emma clasped her camera, eager yet wary of what her enthusiasm might uncover, while Daniel pocketed an old compass more as a shield than a tool. The forest swallowed them whole, its oppressive darkness concealing what eyes refused to acknowledge. An almost living silence encompassed the team, until a snap of a twig underfoot punctuated the void, echoing like the prelude to an unspeakable revelation. An eerie glow swayed slowly among the stones ahead, neither fully in the world of the living nor of the spectral. Dr. Riley, leading the way with a lantern high above his head, caught a reflection between the boulders, something like eyes staring back, ageless and predatory. Yet, when he got closer, only the stone greeted him, cold and mute as the abyss it concealed. It was then that the forest itself seemed to breathe. A malignant whisper filled the air, enveloping the investigators with tales from beyond. a narrative of lives taken that never ended. Emma, struggling to maintain her composure, separated momentarily from the group to film, her camera lens distorting shadows into grotesque forms that seemed to mock her consciousness with their proximity. The path wound unnaturally, leading her deeper between towering stones, each beckoning and repelling her simultaneously. As she stepped carefully around a particularly monolithic boulder, she discovered a small hollow. Inside lay remnants of old belongings, tattered clothing, and hiking gear, weathered by unrelenting time. It dawned on her with a visceral clarity that these were relics from those who vanished. The ghosts she sought were right here, echoed by the abandoned and forsaken. Then, an unusual cold wind surged through, piercing the stone fortresses, pulling Emma from the present dimension into a realm of partial reality, leaving her breathless and questioning her awareness. Was the forest asserting its supremacy, attempting to draw her deeper into its treacherous embrace? The sensation of being prey rather than hunter wrapped a cold shroud around her shoulders, while Emma struggled against the forest's intangible grip. Dr. Riley and Daniel grew increasingly concerned for their missing companion. They backtracked quickly, their voices bouncing listlessly off the stones, unheard splashes of desperation in the vast silence. The freezing air gnawed at their exposed skin, like unseen teeth pressing against their resolve. With mounting panic, they called for her, their only guide being the guttural echo of her name, distorted by the landscape's shifting acoustics, suggesting she was both near and impossibly far. Just as they passed the largest of the boulders, an unsettling realization took root, a silent question that infected their subconscious. Could they truly comprehend what was manipulating the world around them? As they pressed on, a half-glimpsed movement within the stones halted them. A twisting darkness, a void within voids, seemed to pulse alongside their shadows, whispering promises of revelation at a dire cost. It wasn't merely the forest that was alive with intent, but something older and vaster, its call compelling them deeper into its dominion. Despite their fears, Emma rejoined Riley and Daniel, her face ashen with Taylor's unfinished whispered just behind the curtain of existence. Sam's frantic cries for help echoed from afar, seemingly from every direction, simultaneously, a thrall of the forest's cruel deceit. Instinctively, the group reunited with an unspoken vow to protect their own. Light shone bravely from their flashlights, pushing against the night's thick blanket as they stretched to locate Sam among the tangled web of reality and legend. His footsteps had led him astray, drawn by fragmentary voices promising enlightenment trapped within the stone structures. A choir of the lost that resonated with his deepest fears. They found him, pale and trembling, his eyes reflecting not only the small orbs of light in the night, but also the vast, eternal void he had glimpsed, a glimpse that had threatened to swallow him whole. Nothing was solid anymore. The lines between predator and prey blurred beyond recognition in this eerie dance of dominance and submission. A tangible heaviness settled over the group as they realized the ground beneath them might as well have been a thin veil over something unfathomable. Each step felt more burdensome than the last, as if treading on a neglected history, eager to consume once more. The whispers grew louder, rising to a haunting resonance, an incantation sung by the trees themselves. Dr. Riley attempted to assert reason, to deploy devices to map electromagnetic fields, but nature laughed silently in return, bending only to its arcane will. Emma and Daniel could feel cracks forming, not just in the relentless stone, but within their minds, where logic once shielded them from the unknown. They realized they were running not from the forest, but from themselves, their deepest insecurities cast in shadow, feeding off their courage like a parasite. Awareness dawned, a ruthless predator, identified not by eyes or fangs, but by an endless void of consciousness. Patience itself, the most fearsome weapon. The forest had weighed them against their worth and found them wanting, voicing its verdict in the straining groans of old trees and the enveloping hush of night. Sam, isolated from the group, though they stood shoulder to shoulder, met his reflection among the stones, an apparition impossibly similar, yet undeniably foreign, sharing not only his features, but his dread. A palpable pause gripped the world as time slackened, compressing moments into eternity. A whisper brushed against his ear, promising salvation through surrender. An echo of past lives buried within the belly of the earth. His consciousness teetered on the brink of succumbing to the siren call, to halt his march and become part of something greater, yet incalculably devastating. The bond formed under shared fears pulled him back from oblivion. Trembling hands interlocked once again as Emma and Daniel's gaze drew him back to them. The final haunting truth was neither cruel nor kind, merely indifferent, as ancient as time and twice as patient in its judgment, leaving its mark not on them, but within them, an imprint they bore back out of the darkness.